2005, according to statistics, he made his debut for the Uganda Cranes against the Cape Verde Islands. And since then, he's been a mainstay in the senior national side. In so many ways, the face of Ugandan sport. This evening, Denis Onyango released an official statement on his social media suggesting, or saying, I should say, confirming that he is retiring from international football. Oh, what a blow that is for all the Ugandan football fans. But maybe excitement for all the other goalkeepers who now are going to have a chance of getting into the starting 11 for the Uganda Cranes. Hassan Wasswa Mawanda is the other one. We shall be discussing both of those on the show. And as always, it is the press box. I want to thank you for joining us. I have the biggest panel in town. The biggest journalists who talk some of the biggest headlines in the region are on the show tonight. But first, Joel Kamadi is standing by with what is happening on social media tonight. Joel, I'm sure every Ugandan has a reaction to Denis Onyango's retirement tonight.
I'll tell you what, more than any other day have I seen such reaction on social media. And you're absolutely right, having amassed over 70 caps with the Cranes since 2005, Mr. Safe Hands Denis Onyango has announced his retirement just 2 hours, actually, after helping Masandawana beat Chipa United in a Premier Soccer League match. Now, his time with the Uganda Cranes also comes to an end, and exactly 2 weeks after they failed to qualify for the 2022 Africa Cup of Nations finals, of course, under his captaincy. Part of the statement of which he released says, and I quote, "I believe that my notice period is sufficient enough for the technical team to adequately prepare my replacement for the upcoming days," end quote. So, is there a backstory to all this? We will, of course, be trying to get in touch with him later on the show, and it is on that basis that we are asking, how would you sum up his career in national colors? Use the NTV Pressbox hashtag and share your thoughts. We are proudly powered by DSTV and the Kampala Serena Hotel.
I tell you what, Joel, that big save against Zimbabwe at the Africa Cup of Nations, he's done so much definitely for the Uganda Cranes, but it stays in my mind. I wonder if you have a different memory, Joel, about Denis Onyango in those national colors.
And whenever Denis Onyango stepped on the pitch, he gave his all for the team. You know, the saves he made, the kind of mentality he put into the team, it was second to none. You know, you always felt that even when the team was lagging behind, he was the guy who was out there telling them, you know what, guys, we can overturn this, we can win this match. So it comes as a shock to me and to many Ugandans, I think, as well.
All right, there you go. Thank you very much. Later on, we shall be joining in with Max Ali, who will be joining us on Zoom. But let me introduce the panel according to importance. Let me start off with the sports editor. This is going to put me in trouble. Let me start off with the sports editor, NMG, Mr. Ismail Dakawa Chigongo. Good evening and a warm welcome to the show, my friend.
Good evening, Andrew. Glad to be here.
Yep.
I couldn't have chosen a better place to be on a Monday night.
That's a nice political statement.
Yeah.
Right next to him is Vianney Nsimbe, who is, of course, a journalist with The Observer. As always, you return to the show. Fantastic having you here. Good evening and a warm welcome to the show.
It's always a pleasure being here, Andrew.
We're here.
A great good evening to you all, our viewers, and it's always nice being on NTV Pressbox.
And of course, the mainstay, the main man at the very end, Andrew Mwangusha, columnist with the Daily Monitor as well. Andrew Mwangusha is the journalist who has broken the big story from South Africa today. If you don't follow him on Twitter, I don't know who you follow, but he broke the huge headline today, and we shall be discussing that shortly. But Andrew, good evening. Welcome to the show. Your starter for the week.
I don't know whether it's a good evening.
Yeah,
but
surely not.
I'm one of those who actually is a bit low, but life goes on. Happy to be on the show and discuss the man, the great, Denis Onyango.
Fantastic. Let's start with your starter, though. What is your starter for this week?
Maybe we start where he made the name, Sports Club Villa.
Yeah.
Of course, that's where, when you're talking about Onyango and Uganda, that's where you have to mention him. And Villa, of course, the man who actually has held Onyango, that's Micho Srejovic. He even thanks him in his statement. That's the last man to win a title at SC Villa. And they are trying to get it back, though this season may not be it. However, there's a case of bragging rights. They face Host Express on Wednesday. And that is a big one. Express going for the title, Villa trying to breathe. Yeah, yeah, so that one is the big one of the week. But before that, there's another one that has a Sam Simba element in there. Remember, he moved with URA and beat KCC at Lugogo. Now Lugogo visit URA. That's the big one tomorrow. And that's one we really have to look out for. And then we have Vipers hosting Busoga as well. Of course, Vipers want to keep it up there. It's tight, 36 points. Vipers, URA, Express, 35. So it's an exciting league, and I'm definitely looking forward to it.
I mean, there you go. Sam Zimba was on the show a couple of episodes back, and he suggested he knows what the top 4 in Uganda's top division will be at the end of this season. Vianney, I mean, that's a confident man down at URA. But when you look at performances in the Uganda Premier League this season, have you zeroed in on those 3-4 teams that you think suddenly are going to stay in there? Just because, I mean, there's so much pressure and so much uncertainty when it comes to results these days.
Yeah, I think if you look at the way this season has panned out, and I could even say in the last couple of seasons, you realize that it's one of those very unpredictable seasons. And I think for many Ugandan football fan, it's what you would want to see, where there's nobody running away with it. At one time, we thought that Express were running away with it because of the form that they had showcased. Then suddenly they started dropping points. Then URA started also. I remember early in the season when they beat KCC and they beat Villa, and everybody was saying, "Wow, this is probably URA's year." And I was one of those who thought that maybe it was their year. Then, if you look at how also Vipers came storming back in after. What you would call an indifferent start. They were winning, but they were really struggling to win games. And now, when you look at the difference between URA and KCC, URA are 36, KCC is on 30, and yet KCC is 4th. So you realize that the league is still there for the taking. And I think it's very exciting that we have that kind of situation where it's unpredictable. When you look at the game tomorrow, it's also another one that you feel that if you look at URA's start to the second round, lost resoundingly to Express. That 3-1 loss, I thought that was kind of an eye-opener that they needed to step up. I don't think that tactically they applied themselves well. And then when you look at the way they struggled against Mbarara City in the Uganda Cup, you think that tomorrow's game, I've seen URA trying to brag and warn KCC about the game tomorrow. But I think it's going to be much closer than they think.
Yeah.
If you look at the way they've started the second round, I just don't think that they can be overly confident.
I don't think Sam Simba is very excited because he was hoping Mike Mutiaba is in the dugout for the Yellow Boys ahead of tomorrow's clash. But Dakaba, it's fresh breath into Ugandan football. I mean, we know about the early 90s. We know about VEC, the so-called 3 traditional clubs. And we also know the last few years in Ugandan football, it's been Vipers and KCCA. So now to a URA and Express punching in there, it's only beautiful for the Ugandan football fan.
And you just confirm because in the past 5 years, only the 2 teams have competed and won the league title. Yeah. Villa have been in and around. When Ben Miswaga was president, they were always competing until the final 4 games of so, and then they would always collapse. Some of it looked a bit intentional, the manner in which they gave away their fight for the league. Yeah, but it's sometimes in football, there are 2 things that normally work. Yeah, there is a team that is so good that everyone is aspiring to catch up with and all of you are coming from down. Or sometimes all of you are at the same level. I think both ways are very exciting. When you play in a league that has a Barcelona under Guardiola, which is probably the best football team I've ever watched in my life, in that time, everyone is aspiring to be Barcelona. But also there are times when the season is a bit like Leicester and Tottenham and everyone else could win the league. And sometimes that's also equally exciting. In Uganda's case, I think the latter case where you have so many teams that can win the league makes it even more exciting. And for the clubs that some of us grew up watching, especially the pioneer club like Express, that has been here since 1957, to see them compete at a level when a few years ago they could have been relegated, I think it's a breath of fresh air. Everyone would always want Express to be competing at that level because they have the numbers, they have the name, and every time you refer to 1957, where were you in 1957? Andrew's parents hadn't met. Exactly. So something, it says a lot about how important.
You know we are live. We are live. They can't edit that out now.
I'm done.
Yeah, okay.
I won't say
but just before I cross over, because I want us to bring Max Ali into the discussion with his own starter as well. Mwangusha, I've got to ask you, I mean, the cliche, the traditional statement in football is when 2 giants meet, it's a huge derby. It's not about form. It's about the statistics on the day. Is that a feel you get from the Villa Express game, or Villa just haven't been to Express's level, and maybe the Express fans think, 3 in the bag already?
I think when you look at Villa, at least in the last few years, even when they're out of form, when they meet a so-called traditional team, they come up.
Yeah.
Remember just a few seasons ago when they walked to Chitende and beat Vipers, Vipers when everyone was losing
Actually,
at Chitende.
beat does not do justice.
They thrashed Vipers.
They shredded Vipers.
Yeah. So they have it in their hands to actually take the game to Express, but they also find an athletic Express that is very conditionally, treated right now. Helen Buteme, everyone has been talking about her. So it's a game whereby they find an Express side that actually would love beating Villa, and if they beat Villa, then their credentials go up there. Just from thrashing URA, you can't get a better result if you can put it against Villa.
Fantastic. 2 huge games in Uganda's top division, and trust me, the press box will keep very close tabs on both fixtures as well. Continue joining us online. Later on, we shall be opening our phone lines. The hashtag for now is NTV Press Box. Denis Onyango has called time on his international career. He's retired from international football, so you will not see him playing for the Uganda Cranes again. Sad day for Ugandan football, I should say. But like I said at the beginning, maybe a great day for the other goalkeepers who haven't had a look in for the last, 16 or so years, struggling with the bench. So they'll probably have a chance. But Mark Sadi is now joining us on the line. Good evening, Mark, and a warm welcome to the press box tonight. We shall talk about Denis Onyango later on in the show. Let's start with your starter this evening.
Hey, Andrew, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you absolutely fine, my brother.
Yeah, thank you. And greetings to Andrew and Dakava and Vianney. Now, my starter, I might be smiling, but it's not a very happy one, Andrew. You can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you. Go on.
Yeah, I decided to dedicate this show, or at least my involvement in it tonight, to the memory of 2 people that passed on over the last few days. And these are 2 people who are connected to sport and to football, but most especially to Express Football Club, which is why I decided to pay tribute to them. One is a fan, the other is a player. I'd say former player and former fan, because they've sadly departed and they've left us. It's hard to envision such lively people as gone, but that's the nature of life and how we are growing accustomed to living it, because I think we're of the age where it's only natural that we lose people around us, but it's sad anyway. The first one is Arnold Simbwa, the Prince Omlangira, who was a big Express fan. Many people around the country who are watching this show, of course, will remember him for very many different things, because he was different things to different people. But as a football fan, and especially in the relevance of this show, I'll always remember him as the man that supported Express FC and who did it the same way he did everything else, with reckless abandon, with absolute joy and glee. And Arnold Simbwa had the kind of attitude, the kind of character that was so happily infectious. Everybody around him just had to be happy because he was eternally so. And Express actually honored him this weekend, this week. The chairman, Chiwanka, ordering that we have to honor him when Express was actually playing that second leg of the cup against Jetume. And he was honored in that game, but we will always remember him as the guy who supported Express. Like I said, for the relevance of this show, but Simba was many things to many people, and we'll miss him. Funny thing though is that I know that even in a sad moment like that, he would want for me to say it while smiling or happy or even jumping around. He was that kind of person. The second person I'd like to honor, again, who passed on just within hours of Simba's passing, was Yusuf Musisi, the midfielder, who passed on. Well, it was just sad. He was laid to rest yesterday as well. He passed on, and then I think it was on Saturday night. It was just absolutely sad. Everybody on that show there remembers who Yusuf Musisi was. There's so many people across the country who do remember who he was, but there are others also who didn't. We are talking about a former Express player, somebody groomed in the traditions of Chibuli football. He was a Chibuli boy. In Chibuli, you know how Chibuli was the powerhouse of football for many, many years, including the years that he was there as a student. And he played for Express. Injuries and a few things did not allow Yusuf Mosisi to exploit fully the gifts that he had been blessed with. He was a very, very talented footballer. And he made the game look very, very easy. He played football in a way that many people wish to but cannot. As somebody who's been around football for a very long time, I just thought it strikes me right now that I should mention some of the midfielders that have played across the edges for Express. I mean, the kind who were really slow, whose feet were slow, but whose brains were quick. Guys whose brains were much faster than their feet. And how so well they entertained us when they managed to pull on that shot. And Yusuf Mosisi belongs in that category. You'll understand when I break up this list, because some of them were midfielders who played much deeper as holding midfielders, and others were actually attack-minded midfielders who played further up the pitch. But I just wanted to say, to mention these names so people can relate.
Mark, let's do that very fast, Mark. We are really running out of time.
Yeah, I'll say Moses Ndaula, I'll say Jimmy Mugua, I'll say Joachim Matovu, I'll say Simon Chobe, I'll say Willie Chambade, and then I'll stop there maybe because you're stopping because of time. Now, I'm talking about guys across the edges for Express who played either in holding midfield or attacking midfield, but looked like they were really slow and lazy. I didn't mention Fred Tamale because he really was a forward, the way I think of it. Even if sometimes he played as an 8. But these are the guys, Yusuf Mosisi, when he played for Express, brought to Express fans the memories of Willie Chambade, even if they played in different roles. Mosisi a little deeper, Chambade further up the field. He sometimes was at 10, actually. But that was how gifted he was. I've talked about these people deliberately. Even if the styles were different, even if the roles were different, I'm talking about guys who were geniuses, people who were slow of feet, but very quick of brain and blessed with absolute
Thank you, Mark.
Technical gifts. So rest in peace, Prince Arnold. It was just a sad week under those circumstances, but I thought I should pay tribute.
Thank you very much, Mark. Really appreciate it. Next time we shall make sure your starter has about 30 minutes, but we really appreciate your history, my friend. The online is buzzing this very evening. Just allow me to quickly cross back to Joel Kamadi because you guys are sending in these messages. And tonight we promise to read every tweet that comes in on the show tonight, what your reaction is to Denis Onyango's retirement from the Uganda Cranes. Joel, what's happening before we do that quick break? Okay, I think we shall get Joel. Oh, there he is. Joel, what's going on?
I'll tell you what, Andrew, we have so much reaction. I'm finding it hard to keep up with whatever is happening. But yeah, you're right. I'll just do a few, then I'll let you go for a break. We have Ntsubuga Atanansi, who says, it has been an illustrious career. He was the face of the Cranes, such an imposing figure in goal. The save against Zimbabwe was out of this world. Thanks to him for the amazing service and to the nation. Black Boy says, it's a hole for the national team and we have to patch it up though. It will take some time. I would have loved the late Daira to be his replacement, but unfortunately, we lost him. It's calmness and experience in between the posts that we shall miss the most. Umar Musazi says, I do not think the Uganda Cranes has been left with any fear factor if the lion with the safe hands has left. We thank you, Onyango, with your patriotic heart. Can't he be the next FUFA president? Well, Dari says, thanks for the sweet memories. Each game of the Uganda Cranes, you gave it all your energy, like how Andrew does it on the NTV press box. We'll miss your leadership skills. You stood with the boys in Egypt during AFCON when the president had refused to give people their allowances. That's what you say. We shall be coming with more reaction. Okay, we have maybe Komaket Simon Peter. Let's look at that one. Where he says, Onyango's career saw him be a leader, a servant, friendly person, and indomitable being. All the best in your journey, success at the club level. Joseph Akol says, Magogo remains Magogo. Plus, his best foot forward when puts his best foot forward when fighting wars and ensures he wins all of them. One never mentions anything about his FUFA money and remains standing. Onyango and Uganda nil, Magogo 1. Joseph Akoli continued to say, fantastic. He wore the shirt with all his heart, but the ending has been poor, sucked into what was sucked into wars with the federation right from Egypt. Maybe one more, Andrew. And we have Alipo who says, basically, Uganda's best player in the last decade. I pray we get an even better keeper to replace him. Sir Fabian Paves lastly says, absolutely shocking news, especially if factors that forced his resignation are put into consideration. He's arguably one of the top 5 players of all time the country has been privileged to have witnessed. On the light side, it opens doors for young goalkeepers to express themselves. There you have it. We have so much reaction coming in. I can't imagine how we shall go through all of them, but I tell you what, keep them coming. We shall figure out a way to read all of them right before the show ends.
Just like Joel says, we shall go through as much reaction as we can. Now we are going to go for that quick commercial break. But when we come back, I just want to remind you that the Denis Onyango headline came in today. But every radio station, every sports show in the country for the last 1 week has been talking about the FUFA president, Engineer Moses Magogo. You know why? Because he talked about international players becoming a burden to football in this country. Mike Mutiaba was beaten just the other day at FUFA House. He talks about all the Uganda Cranes players that should not be returning to the senior side. He talks about, can I say it on air, shitty football. He also talks about player bonuses and suggests some players should not even be demanding for bonuses after performances they have put in at Chan. It's a huge story that has caused a huge storm as well. And of course, all this comes at a time when the FUFA presidential elections are just around the corner. It's the press box. We're live from the Kampala Serena Hotel. According to our sources here on the press box, tomorrow, Mr. Mujib Kasule, the director down at Proline, will be holding a press conference. And more of our sources do suggest he will probably say he wants to run for FUFA president. Today, MP Alan Sewanyana suggested the same. So it's heating up for the August election as they battle Engineer Moses Magogo. Like we said, he said a couple of things, and later on in the show, we shall be discussing them and also getting your side of the story. But first things first, Denis Onyango, 35 years of age, turns 36 in just 2 months, has called time on his international career. My personal view, he's been the face of Ugandan football in the last 10 years. Now he's gone. The big question is, who comes in to be Uganda's #1 goalkeeper? I've got a big panel, just like I said, and let's quickly jump into that. I'll be crossing over to Max Ali a bit later. Ismail Jakaba Chigongo, let me start off with you. We've been having some fantastic discussions before we came on air. So let me start this for the sake of the viewers. When is your first memory of Denis Onyango?
I'm actually one of those who is extremely privileged, not because someone has accused me of being a Denis Onyango lookalike, which wouldn't be a compliment in any way.
It stops on the waist.
Yeah. But I've been very lucky that I've watched Onyango's career right out of his nappies. Actually, I don't even discuss Onyango in the view of what he has done with the Uganda Cranes. Because I'd been a boy who was around football people, especially the players, because I don't have as good talent to play. So Onyango was part of some of the best teams of the Friends of Football, which was a program started by people I know. Mr. Mubanda the late, who passed on a few years ago, Mr. David Davis Katabira, Eddie Butindo, who was the head of the program in terms of coaching, and my uncle, Agre David Chibenge. And at the time, there were a lot of boys around who they picked up from all kinds of places across this Kampala city and got them playing football. At the time, Denis Onyango was the lead striker of Friends of Football. Antonio Du was the goalkeeper of Friends of Football. Yeah. So I was very privileged to watch him when his football career was still in its nappies. I also got the chance to watch him when he first came to Villa, and he was 4th choice goalkeeper. So to look back 18 or so years later, and we are discussing probably the greatest football player that Uganda has produced, the face of Ugandan sport, for me, it gives me a tinge of, I'm almost feeling that I cannot do him justice. Yeah. In the last few years, when everyone has jumped onto the bandwagon and acclaimed Onyango probably as the greatest thing to happen in Ugandan sport, I've always felt like I ran out of superlatives on a personal level, because I could not mention greatest, maybe is not deserving enough. A great goalkeeper does not fit the bill, and all these other things that people throw around. I felt for a time that the superlatives that English has provided us with cannot explain the person that Denis Onyango is as a player on the pitch. And actually, while people mention his greatest game, I hope Vianney was in the stadium. 2005, Villa versus Al Ahly at Nachivubu. The game ended 0-0.
Vianney, I don't know if to celebrate or to be very sad, because I could celebrate having watched Onyango do so much for the Uganda Cranes, inspire so many of the young generation, but also could be sad knowing that he's going at the moment. But the conveyor belt must keep moving. We have a couple of other goalkeepers in there. The future of Ugandan goalkeeping is safe. Am I right?
Well, I think one of the things that we've not had a problem with, I think, is the goalkeeping area. But you see, the problem that we face now is Onyango had become an institution. Yeah. And, you know, it's not very easy replacing an institution like Onyango has been, because you see, the pressures and the problems that the person that comes after him is going to face is being compared to him. And those are the problems that you normally get when you're going to replace somebody that has been really good. And that's something that Onyango created. And that's what you feel the person that is in line to replace him. Because I wouldn't say that there's one individual who you say that is an absolute successor to Denis Onyango. But you think that maybe the plethora of goalkeepers that are on the scene right now, probably 4 or 5, that either of them is going to face the pressure, whoever will be chosen when we next play the next international game. But I going back to your question also regarding whether it should be a moment of sadness. I think it should be a moment of celebration, because, maybe because of the timing, that could sort of like cause a bit of the tension and the disappointment. That, you know, some things you prepare for and you say, well, Onyango is now probably getting to that point where you feel that, yes, it's time. But we all expected that at one point in time he would be, although personally I thought that maybe it would be after the World Cup qualifiers 2020, because I remember the interview I held with him at his home in 2018. He said that he wanted to give the World Cup a shot and see if Uganda would qualify for the Qatar World Cup. And actually, I believed strongly that he was going to retire after the 2020 World Cup. But now, the manner in which it happened, it's bound to cause a lot of shock and a lot of disappointment and a lot of hurt. Although, like you say, many people should be celebrating the kind of thrills and the joy that he brought to Ugandan football.
Look, there is so much confusion now within the Uganda Cranes fans. Some are questioning the timing of the statement, specifically after those big statements from the FUFA president, Engineer Moses Magogo. So there are folks out there who think that could have sparked the decision. I tell you what, Andrew Mwangusha spoke to Denis Onyango today, but just before I get Mwangusha's comment from the huge interview, which will be a huge exclusive in the Daily Monitor as well. Let me first cross over to Mark, because you have so many facts here, my friend. Mark Sally, I hope you're online and I hope you can hear me at the moment. There you go. Just a few episodes ago on the show, you said it was really unfortunate for Ugandan football that the man who was leading, the posters, Uganda's best goal player for the last few years, was a goalkeeper, and you felt should have been a midfielder, a striker. Well, he's gone as well now. How are you feeling this evening?
Andrew, I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me the same way I hear you?
I can hear you.
Yeah, you know, it's really funny this year, because I spent about 3 or 4 shows complaining about Ugandan football having our best player as a goalkeeper for a decade plus, and thinking that it should have been an outfield player, because, I mean, there's so much a goalkeeper can do. He might make 20 saves, but he's not going to score the winner for you if you don't have one. Case in point is in Malawi. We conceded early. Maybe he couldn't stop it. But what happens when you need a draw and you're trailing 1-0 and it's 80 minutes on the clock? I mean, there's no way Onyango is going to stride out of his goal to go and try and score. So which is why I'd wanted outfield players who were as good as Onyango, so they could help us to the Nations Cup and perhaps the World Cup. And I'm feeling really sad that Onyango should call time on his career when we're going into a World Cup qualifier, which, even if I believe it's really hard paper, he could have helped us negotiate, and that is playing against Kenya and Rwanda in those 2 derbies, and then against Mali. Now, we talked about this on the show, and I was thinking that I don't like scattergun stuff, and I don't like knee-jerk reactions. So we failed to qualify for a Nations Cup, and then you disband an entire team, which is what many people were suggesting and thinking, and which is what some senior players, when we criticized their performance in those Nations Cup qualifiers on this very show, thought we were calling for. It isn't what we were calling for. I would never do that personally, because I believe in transitions that are systematic, that are timely, that are slow, or that are to the point, not this bandwagon gang or knee-jerk stuff where you disband entire teams. And I thought that if there were any senior players who had anything to still offer, Onyango was one of those at the very top of the list. Now, this is what I think about Onyango, and I thank Vianney and Dakaba for saying what they did, considering that. But I've always thought, I've always wondered, I took so long to acknowledge that Denis Onyango was our GOAT, our greatest of all time, as far as goalkeepers were concerned. As far as footballers are concerned, he has a shout as well, and that is a debate we can have. But he's there, up there with the best of them. But as far as goalkeepers are concerned, Andrew, and the rest of the panel, I have grown up across the ages and watched so many good goalkeepers. And I'll confess to you that there are so many who I thought actually, as far as technique was concerned, were better than Onyango. But they did not persevere for as long or as much, and they did not achieve as long as much, because maybe either they didn't have the character or they were way before their time and things like that. When I talk about this, I'll tell you, for example, that Mike Mukasa, who many people who are viewing us didn't watch, but again, another big fraction of guys who watched us saw, Mike Mukasa at AC Villa was a more gifted goalkeeper. But he didn't achieve even a quarter. I mean, a quarter is even saying too much of what Denis Onyango has. And it shows you that in sport, achievement, greatness is not a technical ability or talent, natural as it is. It's only a small fraction of what we call true greatness. Because I've had this kind of debate with other people before, involving other players. There was one I had between Majid Musi and Jackson Mayanja with many people for several years. And I was trying to explain that technical ability is only a little fraction of what overall greatness is. And none in our country match Denis Onyango. I mean, Paul Sali was a very great goalkeeper, technically gifted and achieved things, went to the Nations Cup and everything. We had guys who came after. We had guys, Masachake before, we had people like Tebusweke and Edu Nasamba who came after. We had Sadiq Wassa, who for me is the most gifted.
We shall probably try and get to Mark once again very shortly. He was pretty much trying to talk about the history and how many other goalkeepers have been fantastic. Okay, here it is. Andrew Mangusha, you broke the story to Ugandans earlier on today. And to be honest, when I saw it first, I thought you were joking, or I thought you were lying, because I felt maybe it's the Fool's Day stretching into a completely different week. Let's start here. Let's start here. There's confusion. There's confusion. And I should ask you, did Denis Onyango retire because of the statements and the drama that has been going on in Ugandan football recently? Or was it a decision that he was going to make anyway, of your interview with him?
You could say yes and no. After the game, Malawi-Uganda, Denis Onyango shared with his teammates and the technical team of his intentions to retire. The time wasn't communicated. So perhaps he still had hope to finish the World Cup qualifiers. Now, these events come in the week, Magogo, you know, chastising Chan players. I would love to believe Magogo had the point to communicate, but communicated it poorly. And that's what came out. Normally, when something bad comes out of FUFA, these days they have the communication channels. They're always quick to put it clear. That hasn't happened. So the decision to quit was there, but the timing is what now we need to question. Of course, in between, an audio has leaked. Now, this is an audio that was between Onyango and a fellow player. So that other fellow player perhaps let it out of the bag. It wasn't intended.
A very nasty audio, I should say.
But when you listen to the audio, he's saying some of the basic facts that you'd say to a friend or colleague Only that when it comes out, then, oh, I'm the captain of the national team, then you have to reflect and say, okay, maybe he regrets it. So that audio, in a way, and of course the events, Mike Mutiaba as well, you know, being beaten by a private security guard, and then picked by police, taken to, I mean, constitutionally, Mutiaba has every right to peacefully demonstrate at FUFA House. So he's there with a placard and the security. I actually hope, and FUFA, you know, President Magogo, Ahmed Hussein, everyone is watching. That security guard, I don't know if he's still working there. Yeah. He should have been dealt with if they have not yet by now. Yeah. And the police to come and just pick a former international, put him on their van and take him, sleeps in. Yeah.
I mean, look at those pictures. At some point, I think he was kicked. Look at that. Look at that.
There you go. That's an international, former international player, and he's doing nothing there. And that's the kind of culture that we have. I mean, so ordinarily, this boy here raised issues of players that have not been paid money that State House promised to pay, you know, Ukraine's player. Of course, it's a complex, you know. I just don't understand how they'll be able to tell which players to pay, but at least State House approved it. Now, they have information that money is being paid to FUFA, but FUFA is not paying the players. Okay. Now, if the player alleges that, please, defend yourself. You have all the books. Yeah. Don't just be the player, because that's a FUFA security official. So the police as well just coming and taking him without questioning anything. So for me, I thought that was ridiculous. And now when Onyango comes in, Onyango as a leader of the national team, of every footballer, retired or not, has every right to defend his players. Yeah. So in that audio, he does defend Mike, and actually says, if you're actually embezzling the funds, I mean, defend yourself. Yeah. There you go. So that all combined, because now when the audio leaked as a national team skip, of course, you had to do something to, you know, to calm it down. Yeah. So I thought that audio leaking, in a way, quickened the decision to come out earlier than it would have been, but that Onyango was going to retire. I think that he had come to a conclusion in consultation with family, his agent. It's just that it could have come too early.
Look, the audio, we're not playing the audio tonight because we still feel it was a private discussion that was going on between him and someone. And even though as the media, we should be playing you that audio, we just won't play it. But Dakab, I'm sure you've listened to the audio.
There are things I was, first of all, itching to say. One of them was to engage when Mark was talking about transition. And I was just going to say, we are not a country that is renowned for managing transitions. Oh, yeah. Not in governance, not in business, not in media, not anywhere. We are not just schooled in managing transitions. So such things like Onyango leaving are very sad, but they come in moments where you don't think, like Andre said, they've been well thought out. I've listened to the audio. Like you hinted. And some of the language in that are not very good. I think we have a responsibility on shows like this and being leaders wherever we are to be, I think, bridge builders rather than bridge breakers. But I think that audio feeds into the narrative of the press conference that everyone watched. We played it on NTV, on the news. Of Moses Magogo in the previous week.
We shall play most of those audios later on in the show.
Because the attack on the players, and then Onyango responds the way he did, and then uses the word Omusirusiru, which is not the most intelligent word Onyango has used in a forum. Sadly, it was private. So such things do not help. But we are also not a country that has grown enough to institutionalize things. Because while these things are happening, they're happening just because we are not responsible enough, and sometimes we don't appreciate the positions we are in. Every Ugandan who rises to a level and is lifted by the grace of God and gets to another level, they grow this kind of arrogance and entitlement. I don't know where it comes from. Everyone starts to feel, because I'm national team captain, I can call the FUFA president anything. Because I've been lifted from Mutundwe Lions and Chinyara Sugar, and I'm FUFA president, I can call Andrew Kabura stupid. Goodness, you're not any smarter than anyone. It's just the grace of God. And I don't want to come here and appear like a pastor. I'm not. I'm not even very schooled in the Quran, and I'm fasting tomorrow. I wouldn't come here and preach about what the Quran says. But there is this arrogance about people who are successful in this country that sometimes I don't get. That everyone who goes up from one step to the other. Tomorrow, I was in the newsroom with, I've been in the newsroom with him for a large part of the last, 15 years or so. Or 10
years.
10 plus years. I've known certain people I work with, like Elvis Senono, for the last 20 years of my life, and Patrick Kanyomozi. To them, they are boss. So I'm supposed to show up and give them this grand and tell them roll a red carpet because I'm a supervisor. It's utter stupidity that everyone who goes to a level starts to feel like all this power, all this authority. I have all this air around me. I find it very stupid.
I want to bring you Vianney in. This comes 3 days after Hassan Wasswa Mawanda himself called time on international duty. I've had a rumor, guys, that there is one more senior player who's going to be retiring very soon. But I think wait for his official statement. But if we are looking for a new
one or two,
one or two, or
or three,
or you know someone else? No, I've heard about one person who recently was in the headlines.
I think there are three more. Three more are going.
So
to
anyway, the new look Uganda Cranes seems to be taking shape now.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, the Ugandan football fans, some will be happy that the conveyor belt is on and we're seeing new talents. But what a generation this has been, and how huge is this impact going to be? If you're seeing what was almost as senior as Onyango.
Yes, same generation, basically.
So there you go. We need leaders now, Vianney.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be one tail of a challenge for sure. Having people that are going to replace a person like Onyango and his leadership. Of course, Wasswa. I think for me, Wasswa was one of those very nice human beings. I've known him to face a lot of criticism.
Actually, when you criticize him, he'll smile at you
and like I posted, I've not seen a footballer that just doesn't have any airs around him, and that's Hassan Wasswa. It's not something they're going to say about most Cranes players, and I insist, most Cranes players, especially this younger generation, they should learn from Hassan Wasswa, I think. But when it comes to the issue of leadership, because you've had Massa retiring. Then remember you had Andemwe Suga also retiring in 2017. And then now Onyango, now
Tony
Mawanda, Tony Maweje also. Has he retired? It's not yet certain.
He's not confirmed.
I think we have an exclusive there, guys.
So you can see that
he's on Cranes B, so he's retired from Cranes
so
A.
you can see a phasing out of quite a number of players. And it's going to be a very big challenge for who comes in, because you see what happens is that many of these things impact players psychologically. Now, when Okwi looks at himself, probably he'll be thinking, now, I've been with Onyango, and this has been our team, because Okwi started playing for the national team in around 2010. Now, that's been 11 years. Now, if he sees Onyango leaving, he sees Hassan Wasswa, because they've got that kind of chemistry that they've had around, and probably he'll feel that probably he does not relate so much with the likes of Alan Okello or Abdul Mala or even Kadu, and you probably feel that he's an outlier. And then probably the same will apply to a person like Mike Azira, knowing him because he also is a boy of Villa Park, grew up with Okwi. It was at Villa Park when Onyango was there, but he was their senior. So you get a feeling that maybe, and then you remember that we also had Jaja Walusimbi also retiring. And that's the same generation of Walusimbi, Mike Azira, Okwi. That is the same generation, but which came and even Awucho, that's the same generation.
But he has not retired yet.
No. But you can you shudder to think what could happen, and whoever would be in charge of the Cranes, what kind of outfit they would have.
All right, there you go. I want to cross over Joel Kamadi because there's more reaction coming in online. But let me tell you this: when we come back from Joel, I'm going to put Max Ali on the spot because we're going to play you the audio clips from Engineer Moses Magogo's press conferences. Well, I should say press conference, and we shall try. What's going on? Joel is not yet available. Okay, there you go. Sorry, guys. Having a quick discussion with my producer here. All right, so let's have those clips in. Let's just play for you the first clip. I think he's talking about internationals being a burden to FUFA. And let me just say this before the clip plays. I actually support the president on this one because I feel we need to figure out how our footballers are going to sustain themselves in the future. In the clip, he talks about football paying you when you're still playing, and he talks about you becoming a burden then to FUFA. I don't know. It's just my opinion. But here's the clip first.
You have finished playing football. Football paid you when you are playing football. What is your problem after playing football? I'm here representing the rights of players. Which players? Which players are you representing? Who has sent you to represent him? Now I'm here to represent the players' rights. So many, and then the whole, you're not following no sense. How? You are telling us we don't pay players. What do we say? Manja Federation? Manja Federation? We have paid over 25,000 transactions of paying players. What do abasambi abafunye sente nga ku mulembe guno? These guys have earned hundreds of millions, and these are obscene monies. And then somebody comes out in this era, in this generation, talking about FUFA not paying players. In this generation, you have the moral authority to come out and say players are not paid. Where? When did we have had players whom I look at and I sympathize with, great players who earned nothing out of football? Great players of this country earned nothing out of football because the money was not there. Today the money is there. We have even paid it. Then somebody comes, abasamba muchani, tebabasasula. Do you know what you are talking about?
Do you know what you're talking about? That's the big question, really. Mike Mutiaba was arrested at FUFA House the other day, and so many Ugandan football fans who are not happy with what happened. As the show has been going, we've received a very important text message which has come to Andrew Mwangusha's phone. Please tell us from who and which text message before I cross over to Mark.
The AIGP and Police FC chairman, Hassan Kasinje, actually helped in the release of Mike Mutiaba, and he says it wasn't right to detain him. So he was supposed to appear today. Yeah. Because he was given.
He actually showed up at police.
Yes. So that goes to show. I mean that what was done was arbitrary, and we are happy at least that Kasinje came in and arrested the situation.
Arrested.
So Mr. Kasinje is now the law.
Yeah. We ensure that the law is not broken.
But Mr. I have no problem with you being the law because at least
at least Mr. Kasinje called on his subordinates. That actually
make sure the money is released.
You need to follow the law. So get him out.
There you go. Big statement coming through from Mr. Hassan Kasinje. Thank you very much for watching the show tonight, my friend. I think you're one of those who are big loggerheads with the federation as it stands at the moment, but you're standing your ground, which is fantastic. Mark Sally, you're on the line and you can hear me now. I mean, I don't know, Mark. I'm confused, Mark. You've listened to so many press conferences from so many FUFA presidents over the years. When you listen to the tone from Engineer Moses Magogo on that specific clip saying football paid you, what are you looking for now? He's talking about, the fact that the former internationals should have saved enough money, that they should look after themselves. I mean, what do you read from that? Is it a fair statement to the ex-footballers, Mark?
Sorry, what is that?
Is that a fair statement from the president to the ex-internationals?
Now, listen, I don't know why Moses got overly emotional, the FUFA president, under the circumstances. I'd like to understand. But there's a few things here that we who are not emotional, and that is also only in retrospect, by the way. Sometimes you've got to understand how people get swept up in emotions, because the kind of game we're talking about here, and sport in general, are emotional things. So sometimes it's easier for us who are talking in retrospect on a show, because we've composed ourselves to actually talk nicely and even be politically correct. But I don't know why he would get so emotional, because ultimately what happened is that even the correct message that he had to put across perhaps got lost in translation, if you know what I mean, because of the way it was delivered. Well, and I've been around quite a bit, so I've seen FUFA presidents speak like that before, including his immediate predecessor. So we talk tough when they had to, even if it wasn't quite savory to the ear. Now, one of the things Magogo was referring to here is the fact that players in the current setting get paid a lot more than at any other time in our football history. And that is true, because if you've been involved, and I have been, to be honest, I know, you know that guys didn't get paid. On this show, we've talked about in the past how guys have gone without those basics for long periods. The one that gets me emotional, which would get me emotional in the same sense, is that Majid Musisi, even by the time he passed on, having ailed in our side for a long time, still was owed by the Federation, because there's a few times that he had actually met his own bills coming out of France or Turkey. And it had been the norm before, but there wasn't that much money available.
Okay.
Now, so there's been a bit more money available now, and guys have got paid a lot more than in the past. But still, I hope you can hear me. I haven't frozen again.
Yeah, I can hear you very well, my friend.
Yeah, but still, yeah. If they do something, which is where I'd have differed with Moses, but hey, he doesn't work in PR and I do. If they're due something and it's not been paid, then you own up. And actually, the best thing to do if you're communicating with the public on things like this is to own up and then give timelines, especially under the circumstances where FUFA always come good regardless of how delayed it's been, which wasn't the case in the past, and I would continue to refer to that. So, well, I thought his statements were too strong. One or two of them were actually unfortunate, and but ultimately, I thought that it would have been easier for FUFA to actually come out there and say, you know what, we've paid this and that and the other, like he's saying now about transactions, 24,000 or whatever, and we've not paid this, that, and the other.
Okay.
And it's due at this time. It's due at this time because the money is not there or anything. I've actually heard on the grapevine, and I don't know about that. You guys, as the three guys on the panel with you, Andrew, are better equipped with information like this, being in the newsroom and active more than me. That the Chan money hasn't come in, or some of the other money that has been promised hasn't yet come into the FUFA coffers and everything. How difficult is it to actually say that rather than blast them? But like I said, the mode in which you deliver a message sometimes can kill the message itself.
Okay.
The truth of the matter is that when he questions some of the performances in recent internationals, I think he's got a right to.
Yeah, we're coming to that shortly, Mark.
To question those performances, because some of them, even to you and me,
Mark, I'm coming to that very shortly. We're going to play more clips. Mark, can you hear me? We're coming to that shortly. We're going to play more clips and we shall talk about that. It's actually my next clip. But just before I talk about that, let me first bring in Dakaba. He says,
thank you.
You guys were paid by football. You can now not come and be a burden. The big question, though, is, do we need an ex-internationals kind of committee under FUFA? And secondly, is FUFA honestly responsible for ex-footballers?
They actually, sorry, let me first respond to your first question. They actually have an ex-internationals body under FUFA. It was inaugurated by Engineer Moses Magogo at a function which I watched on video because I didn't make it here because it was on their FUFA TV live. It's headed by Jackson Mayanja, one of the greatest players to kick the onion bag in this country. And as people, George Semo, get it, all these people have been extremely critical of FUFA before, and they're ones who are heading that. Honestly, there is no federation in the world that can take care of inactive athletes or footballers. There is no federation that can afford it, be it China, be it America. But now the bigger question I've always seen, and it's always very sad when you see an ex-player you adored struggling. It's always a very sad thing. That's why sometimes we think that the solution is FUFA giving them a stipend. But that stipend is just a one-off. And we know handouts have never been able to solve or transform anyone's life. I think it goes into the bigger question for me is about the rubbish nature of social security in this country. Someone who has played their football and made some money should have something to fall back on. This is where the amount of money that is saved in terms of social security funds becomes very important. Secondly, we have had so many players. Today we are discussing player signing endorsement deals, and Denis Onyango, we've been discussing greatly on this show, has a deal with girls sports betting and his glove partners. He has glove partners that he wears. RG, I think they are called RG. And today he's suing two companies for using his face without his authorization, two other betting companies. Look at this, Onyango is not the first player to get an endorsement. But because he's lucky that he has a manager who can take care of his finances. If you go back to history, Issa Sekatawa, Golden Boy, was probably the first Ugandan sports person to sign endorsement deals in the early 90s with Butter, the shoe company, and ice cream companies. In the 80s. Yeah. So, but if you ask, did we have the knowledge about the ability to manage Issa Sekatawa's finances that we don't have to see him on television with some Mpoza having a microphone next to his bed and he's saying Munyambe, Munyambe, that kind of thing? It's extremely sad. So for me, the bigger question should be about social security. Yeah. Because if tomorrow Moses Magogo or FUFA, even after Magogo, I've seen a former FUFA president describe people as goats. You at the press conference, I know Vienna, and I remember you were taken aback several years ago.
And bed bugs.
And bed bugs. We'll see that happen again. Because there is no federation that can manage the bill of ex-players. If tomorrow Moses Magogo said, let all ex-internationals come, for example, for just a Cranes game, nobody would feel.
Absolutely.
And there was no one
stay outside.
So then, Mwangusha, you wanted to react to that before I went to Ismail. So then what's the fuss? What's the problem?
Actually, to just supplement, it's the same as the State House arrangement of paying ex-players. Like, how do you know? The team is always evolving. Who are you going to pay?
Paying players.
Paying players, yes. The players, okay, the current players. Like, the team changes every other time. Yeah. So it's, again, the handout issue. Yes, monthly, but who gets it? Then that creates, actually, some scam, I could say, at the federation, because now people are going to be summoned depending on who wants to get what. Yeah. So that as well is also short-sighted. I don't think it can last. It's hard to practice. I mean, players will always come and go. Okay. Then on the player issue and Magogo and all, this is the feeling I get from the players speaking to them. They actually feel disrespected by how they are treated by FUFA. They feel they are being, taken as kids. Even kids are respected, but they do not feel any ounce of respect from the federation, and even when the president is speaking. Yeah. Now, the point here is, the players...
I think Magogo needs to apologize as a person. Needs to take, like Mark was saying something that maybe was speaking in emotion. Now, in retrospect, he needs to sit back, and if he replays that video and watches himself, he knows I shouldn't have said this, that. Yeah. I think he needs to come out and say, I apologize. I think everyone can understand that.
Actually, in our interview for the Daily Monitor the other day, Magogo and Denis have already exchanged a phone call regarding the audio, and of course, Denis saying some of the things were taken out of context, it wasn't meant for public, and the two men understand each other, they've moved on, but like you say, the shitty football and all, that was said in public, perhaps he still owns it. Now, for me, the question was, these Chan players, were they asking for winning bonuses or just allowances?
Yeah, allowances.
Because whether you lose or not, on national duty, there's a stipend that you get.
You have to be paid. Now, in Uganda, it's $50 per day.
Now, when I ask for it, please don't remind me I played that football.
Okay, let's quickly move on, though, because part of the press conference, he also did address the issue which I think so many journalists, Ugandan football fans and Cranes players have been talking about online, saying that the President of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, promised players, was it $1 million after the AFCON, and Magogo was saying, no one should ask for this money from FUFA because, first of all, you were paid for the job you did on the day. But secondly, he does not manage the coffers down in State House. So it was quite controversial. But here he is talking about team selection, a very controversial one as well. We shall discuss this. Just take a look.
Right to work with Burkina Faso. It is arranging players from Aston Villa and everywhere. For us, we are arranging ours from where? Now, instead of looking at these realities of how do we address the realities, we look at Singa Gundi Yabadem. So let us be clear, members, if the players, let us teach people football, being the media, if a player has performed badly on the day, let him take the stick. Next time he will come back when he's aware that I must perform. But every time we cover up bad performance, these players will come up and give you back. I know players who have given us 3-4 years of no performance. And they are here and they are being celebrated by all of you who are here. And for us, we say we shall not tell the coach who to. If I was the one to invite this team, there are certain faces you would never see, pure out of performance. But I'm not the coach, I'm not technical, and I don't go there. 4 or 5 years, there's some players on the national team. And they are there, we still celebrate and glorify them. Even in clubs where they are not even playing football still. And somebody said, watch FUFA Mbaita. Tubaita because the coach has selected them. For us, if a coach selects a player, it is his responsibility. I think next time we should be engaged.
There you go.
Kabura, before you bring in Vianney, I think Moses Magogo has very good points he raises. He just needs a speech writer and promises himself to stick to the script. The information will come through right.
Everything he's saying is what we can say on this panel in different language, and it's what every Cranes fan would say out there about the performances. And we've even been on this show and questioned the selections of McKinstry and Abdallah Mubiru over the recent past, and every coach that we've known. But now the way,
he's
even
putting
the
it out
tone.
there. Vianney, when a FUFA president comes on air and says, if I was in charge, I would not be selecting some of these faces.
For 5 years.
Yeah, we are calling them because the coach is the one. I mean, what do you take from that? What does this mean to a couple of old players? And I say old with in a very loose way.
I really don't think it was directly targeting the older players. I don't know why
he said 5 years. So when he says their players are not selected for 5 years.
That is not Alan Okello.
He's not saying Alan Okello.
Yes.
He's saying the older player.
Personally, I think that, like Andrew just pointed out, I feel that Magogo raised pertinent issues regarding the Cranes. First and foremost, the issue of ex-players, clearly the federation cannot sustain them. It's not possible. But they need to find solution. Maybe they need to give them some kind of direction on how to redeem their lives. I think that's what the federation can
only do that when they are still active.
You know what I mean? Even right now, they can not that they need to give them money, but they need to maybe give them a direction on how to redeem their lives. Because as Magogo, as an administrator, you probably advise them that you do this. Because right now, he can't pay them, but maybe he can advise on how they can lead their lives to redeem themselves. Regarding the national team itself and the players that have not been performing well, yes, there are really some players that have not done justice to the jersey, and they've been called every other Africa Cup of Nations qualifier, World Cup qualifier, but maybe, like Mark Sadi pointed out, the whole point about Magogo is about the communication and the tone. And probably that's where he probably loses it a bit, but I'm not going to say that the points that he raised were wrong, because I think that there are some really pertinent issues that he raises, and he could have packaged the message that he wanted to deliver out in a more subtle and probably in a more amicable manner that would not make him be looked at as being disrespectful.
Through Andrew, I've always known Moses Magogo as a person, through interacting with him with this job, not much beyond this job, is that he's always been able to take a step back. He's one who never gets lost in the moment. I don't know what's happened. Is it the madness of the NRM primaries or the MP election? I don't know what happened, because clearly over time, he's actually been one. That's why I was utterly angry. I was extremely angry at the mistreatment of Mutiaba. Because I've known
and
Magogo,
he should have come out.
If you criticize him a lot, let's say for us the journalists, he'll request to come to your radio station or your TV
and explain himself.
If you criticize him and you're an ex-player or a delegate, he'll reach out and talk to you. Now, I don't know what went over him in this moment.
It's just a very heated moment at the moment. Well, if you think he's stepping back, he certainly is not. Because like I said, in August, there will be a presidential election when it comes down to FUFA. Our sources do suggest that Mr. Mujib Kasule, I hope I'm not breaking a story that won't happen, and you guys question my journalism credentials. We do understand there is a press conference tomorrow morning. Today, the Member of Parliament, Alan Sewanyan, as well, came up and suggested that he will be contesting for FUFA's top job. But here is Engineer Moses Magogo speaking about returning to retain his own seat.
We are in an election year. At FUFA, elections have begun, whereby my term as the president of the federation comes to the end at the 31st of August 2021. And the process has begun, and there are going to be very many political emotions. Let us be aware of them. But we will come up and apply the rules and regulations irrespective of your political ambitions. And there is nothing wrong with having a political ambition to become anybody in an electable office. It's not an offense. We will organize free and fair elections and ensure that the rules are followed as they are. I call upon those interested in positions to follow the rules. So it is football to benefit more than the individual. Because we have somebody who sits on the table. You're not going to talk about anything, and I'm not looking at football when I'm in parliament. If you are creating cities, you are discussing a lot about cities. My ears and eyes will be where is football in those cities. You're creating a Mbarara city and there's a law. Where is infrastructure? Where is sport? And for me, being present, football should celebrate being present on the table that takes decisions of this country. And you don't want to lose that connection. The risk you have is by saying, okay, you can go and sit at parliament. Before you realize I'm a professional, I'm an engineer by profession. And before you realize I'm absorbed up into ICT regulations, telecom regulations, because that's why my profession. And before you realize football has lost again another son of its own because of the engagements. Now when you have the federation, you need a proper transition that allows the benefits. And the moment the benefits come, like now we have funding from government, it is here. Anybody taking over after me, that will have remained. There are things we need to pull out of government.
There you go. The FUFA president, Engineer Moses Magogo. I think what I really like about that clip is that he's promising those folks that will be voting that the election will be free and fair, which is fantastic to make sure the next... Why are you laughing? You can't do that. You're making it look like what I'm saying is not right on here. Oh, wow. Oh, wow, Mangusha. This is embarrassing.
Makes it seem
there
like
you go.
you're a clown,
But after that, he made another comment which probably has gotten the biggest airplay anywhere.
Was I not supposed to comment on that?
No, I'm going to come to you very shortly. Let me get the clips out of the way. Yeah, he said something to do with shitty football. And that got so many people talking. Just take a listen.
Chan ended at the end of January. We are talking about the end of March. These are 2 months. How does government pay money in cycles of 3 months? Do you know even what you are talking about? Or do you know how many competitions have been in this quarter compared to next quarter? Do you know the financial flows? Now, what about the previous payments that have been done? But you want to come to the public and sound right. And then the public amplifies you. What did they play? When you demand for money, what have you put on table? They went there and they played shitty football. And then they come back, okay. Until we start understanding that whatever you get in life, you earn it. You don't get in life what you have not earned. Yes, they have their money, $50 per day, it will be paid. And that has been FUFA. Many of you asked to pay Micho. FUFA has the way it operates. Tell me any institution in Uganda, when they do books of accounts, they are debtors and creditors. That is how institutions operate. Now look what we are grown and brought and raised in this situation.
There you go. The FUFA president, Engineer Moses Magogo, lashing out at the fans, the players, and the media as well, folks who are misunderstanding what actually is happening in football or how football should be run. Very shortly, we shall go and take some phone calls, so the number is going to be on the screen, so you can call us. We're going to take about 5 callers, so you can give us your reaction to both Denis Onyango and, of course, that huge interview. But Andrew Mangusha, before we did that, you had a quick comment to add on that.
Yeah, just Ismail Dakaba said, I mean, Magogo is known for someone who takes a step back and then, reflects and then comes through. And he's wondering what's happening. Elections are happening. Emotions run high. And as you are seeing, the build-up, and of course, we had also to clear the Cranes' failure to qualify. So, it's a game anywhere where politics is played. Try and, yeah, it's a chessboard. And also, I had to put this to the 3 of you guys. Apart from Angela Merkel, where in the world have you seen a third term where people are not beaten?
Nowhere.
Yeah, let's proceed.
Yeah, nowhere. Maybe,
Putin?
no, maybe England, maybe the UK.
Maybe the UK, yeah.
Yeah,
They
so
had-
many times later.
Yeah, they've had
30
some long-serving
30
prime ministers.
Yeah.
Tony Blair served really long.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
3?
yeah, I think 3. He
Oh.
did, actually.
Okay.
And he actually didn't lose an election. He lost a confidence vote within his party.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for your history, my friend.
thank you very much.
Let's take some phone calls now. Let's try and take about 5 phone calls. You've listened to both big debates on the show tonight then. There is one for Denis Onyango retiring, and then there's, of course, Engineer Moses Magogo, the FUFA president, lashing out as well. Please, when you call us, make sure you turn down the volume on your TV set and just go straight to the point. Good evening and welcome to the press box.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Kennedy Mutenyo.
Yes, yes, Kennedy.
Just for the sake of time, one, I think what is compounding all this is a good message may be lost because of the timing.
Mm-hmm.
Because why are people demanding for money now when elections are coming, not later on? Did they only realize today that there is some money missing?
Okay.
So, because of the timing, the issue may be misunderstood. They may be right, but you can have myths. But if you package it wrongly, packaging is very important in communication. If you package it wrongly, you will be misunderstood.
Yeah.
On Onyango, still his retirement may suffer the same fate. That why is it now?
Mm-hmm.
So if I were Onyango, although he has the right, first of all, I'm very hurt that he resigns, retires rather. Wouldn't it even have been better for Denis to retire after this campaign? So on Magogo issue, like Mark Sally said, I think the biggest problem is Magogo allowed it get into his head. He did not have to talk about any shitty football, because again, it is again packaging.
Yeah.
You talk about shitty football, your good message or your right message is lost in only one word, shitty. Yatuvumie, 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 yatuvumie. Even if you may have a point.
Yeah.
But as a leader, I would like to request one thing. One, that President Magogo apologizes for foul language. Two, that even people who had double standards in the past, where they were saying now that Magogo has gone to politics, he shouldn't be FIFA president. Do they still have the same reason now that Alan has also come in? So let us have as many people as possible who want to contest. Today, if you stand against Magogo, Magogo has got a track record now. He will stand up and say, I did this, I did this, I did this, even if he did not do it, but it only coincided with his being in office. So at the end of the day, I think, one, Magogo should apologize for that shitty word and everything. Secondly, as a fan,
Okay, there you go. I think we have had a technical problem with Kennedy, who is a huge supporter, by the way, of Ugandan football. So thank you very much. Let's try and take just 4 more phone calls before we try and wrap up the show. Joel Kamadi is battling with selecting your messages online because there are so many, my friend. Good evening. Welcome to the press box. Hello? Good evening. Okay, there you go. We shall try and get someone else. Please, when you call us, I'll just remind you, turn down the volume on your set. Good evening. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, good evening, my friend. What's your name?
This is David speaking.
Tell me, quick reaction on the 2 big headlines tonight.
Yeah, on the 2 big headlines.
Go on.
Yeah, the main reason here is Magogo's reaction to his kid, I may say, because he has been taking care of them since his appointment as the FUFA president. But now you come and see the reason how it has been happening since the other time. There is a time they had gone for a football camp outside the country, and I remember they were stuck at the airport, where they stayed for quite some period of time, and I think most of them slept there. And now it comes like this. Magogo would have respected the kids. Losing was not their aim of participating in CHAN.
Okay, there you go. That is another reaction. I think as we try and get can we get 3 more reactions? Yeah, because I think there's so many phone calls that are coming through at the moment. But we shall try and do that. Do we have someone else online? Good evening. Welcome to the press box.
Oh, good evening to you.
I'm fantastic. What's your name?
This is Kasuma from Jireka.
Tell me.
No, I think the whole thing I discussed on these 2 issues, I think the whole problem is all political. It's being political because now when you look at almost all institutions of government, they are facing almost the same steps. And these things are happening all over and over again. I think the whole country is just under a mess.
Okay.
So I think that's my issue. Otherwise, we shall get over it and it will get done. This Magogo is just talking like it is a dictator.
Okay, there you go. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Shortly, I'll be crossing over to Mark and Joel Kamadi to get us some reaction. But let me get final reactions from you guys here as we try to wrap up the show tonight. Obviously, like I said, for me, it's bittersweet. I have great memories of Onyango being in that national kit. Now I feel he's gone as well. I'm hoping the future of Ugandan football gets good. We can have a good goalkeeper that can come in. And then, of course, you have these big comments from Magogo. Daka, but let's try and wrap up the show tonight. Magogo apologizes. Then what happens next?
There's an election where I strongly believe that none of the people who have had a standing do stand a chance. I beg to come here to the show and apologize if Alan Sewanyana makes it to the ballot or Mujib Kasule. I think they are going to struggle to make it there.
Why? They have served for 7 years in football. They are above 31 years of age.
When I've been very lucky that I don't speak out of a point of listening to a radio station or a TV, so my opinion has been formed by crawling in the jungles of football politics. I was very lucky that when I chose to cover the last FUFA election in 2017, my supervisor at the time, Mark Namanya, advised me to cover 2 or 3 assemblies preceding the election, then I would know the outcome. So by the time I traveled to Masindi, I'd known what was going to happen in Masindi a year prior because I'd been in Luwero at Nimrod Hotel where there were elections. And you know, there are just 3 requirements that are very difficult to beat if you want to stand and beat Magogo. 1, forget about the age. You need to get an endorsement of 1 special interest group. That is either women or referees or something. There are 8 special interest groups, or Bitsok or Futsal, all the others. 2, you must be endorsed by 1 of the regions. FUFA has 8 regions that constitute it. That's where Magogo's biggest strength. And those regions have 48 voters because every region brings 6 delegates to the assembly. I wait to see who gets any region to endorse him. Eastern region has already spoken. They are going to vote Magogo. Buganda has already spoken. They are going to vote Magogo. I wait to see what Western and West Nile are going to say. If you get that endorsement, then maybe I'll see a shift. The other one is probably the simpler one. You're supposed to get an endorsement from 1 Uganda Premier League club. Mujib Kasule can get it from his Proline. Proline is no longer in the league. Maybe from Vipers.
From one of the clubs that play at Lugogo.
Yeah, from one of the clubs that play in Lugogo, he can get that kind of endorsement. So I see Moyaz. Part of me, having been a young journalist and walked into that FUFA house, and I can authoritatively say on this station, that place was a dungeon you wouldn't want to walk in. It lacked a coat of paint. It lacked all the basics of an office when I was a young journalist covering it. When I walk into FUFA and reflect on that, I think Moses Magogo as an individual has done very well at FUFA. But I've always felt that the hallmark of being a good leader is the ability to leave. And I always thought Magogo was going. I'm actually one of those who was convinced from my sources within and around him that he was going to walk away after 8 years. And he's taken the path that we are all very familiar with. He's returning. And that's all I can say. The last one I'll say, I personally, like I stated earlier, I did run out of superlatives for Moses Onyango several years ago.
Yeah, Denis Onyango, yeah.
Good luck, Captain, whatever you do.
So there you go. Vianney and Mwangusha, you have about 20 seconds because we're running out of time.
No, I think I totally agree with Isma. It's going to be very difficult for anybody who's going to challenge Moses Magogo, because if you look at the setup of that delegates assembly, it's just difficult to break through that ceiling and to change the way they think, because this is a delegates assembly that is paid, apparently receives money every month from the federation. Now, it will be difficult for you to convince them why they shouldn't back the same guy that has been giving them that money and has probably given them so many opportunities. And then regarding the Magogo press conference, I think if you look at the whole press conference and the things that he was presenting that day, if you take out the word shitty, then you probably feel that it was a fine deliberation with the media and whatnot. And I think, I won't hold my breath on it, but I agree with Isma that he should apologize. But I remember even after he served his ban in 2000 and was it 2018 when FIFA banned him? Yeah, I posted on his on Twitter handle that it really was in bad taste for him to hold a party that was coming back from a ban. And I felt and I urged him that the thing you should be doing now is apologizing to Ugandans for whatever misdemeanor took place at your call or as a FUFA president. So I won't hold my breath that Magogo won't apologize. I don't think he's the kind of person who can really humble himself to that level. I'll be pleasantly surprised if he apologizes.
Dre?
First things first, of course, Magogo, like we said, he lost the message in communication, but he's talking of quarterly disbursements from government, delayed and all. Even the CAF money, the $275,000 for appearance, also hasn't come yet.
Yeah.
So he could have, put the message clear.
Exactly.
And everyone would have understood.
Yeah.
So perhaps I think that we agree on that. Then on...
and he should say sorry for Mike Mutiaba.
Oh yes, Mike Mutiaba issue. Actually, Hassan Kashinje, our friend who is watching, we need to know what happened to the security that mistreated Mike Mutiaba.
Yeah.
Because, he did nothing wrong, and you admit to that as well. So perhaps we would love to get an update on
and
that.
Even from Magogo
and
himself.
even the FUFA president, because that security operative is employed by
couldn't
FUFA.
keep quiet for this long.
And they would have put a stop to
Fantastic.
it. Then on Denis Onyango, what can I say? What a man, what a player, what a leader. We are so lucky, blessed to have him, and all the best. Sundowns contract runs out of 2023, could be more, and we hope perhaps like Ibra Sekaja, he stays there and get the coaching badges, and we get someone who actually understands the game at that level.
Fantastic. You say, let me just get the final few reactions from Joel Kamadi now online, then we shall wrap the show. Joel, I know it is buzzing, my friend.
I was watching you guys. Of course, I'm down here as well, running the show behind the scenes. But you guys, I can tell you this, I've never enjoyed such a program as I have today, but that's besides the point. I'll give you two comments from two very important people. That's Farooq Miya, who's a forward with the Cranes. He says, a lot can be written, but nothing will fill the sacrifice you guys have done for our country and current generation. You have been an example of good leaders, captains, role models, elder brothers, inspirers. Among others, you will always be remembered as legends. And he's tagging, of course, Denis Onyango and Hassan Wasswa. Another Cranes player who has just tweeted is Beavis Mugabe, who says, a leader of men who's guided the Uganda Cranes to new heights and laid the foundation for the new generation. Thank you for integrating me into the squad so smoothly, showing qualities of a real captain on and off the pitch. Thank you, legend, pure class. And he tags two pictures of Denis Onyango there. Let's look at more before I come to you, Andrew. Yenze Luaga Mubezi. You say, at this moment, I would kill to have Abel Daira back. What a talent we missed because of death. As Masinde Onyango goes off the scene, I'm reminded of this great Daira. We can probably go up and say, Baz Wasswa, who says Magogo, his admin pick, who coaches Uganda Cranes, a failure by coach to get us best players and results is equally a failure by FUFA. Magogo heads FUFA. Magogo, my MP-elect, should sober up and clean his house in Mengo. If we scroll back down, we can see Amar the Red, who says the factors preceding his retirement are pretty fishy, but after all has been said and done, and the dust has settled, he has done Uganda proud. The usual suspect, Jude Mugabe, you say, they made us He's talking about the show tonight. He say they made us, Pressbox made us forget that European leagues are running. There was El Clasico, the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League are being decided this week, but local football has dominated the discussion. Well done. Maybe one more from Toka, who says, so Magogo has no kind words to these players because for him, he knows he's an engineer and has somewhere to eat away from football. So much reaction. I've been engaging most of you on social media. We couldn't finish everything, sadly, but the discussion, of course, will continue even after the show is done. Andrew, I'm telling you what, this is, everybody tells you a story about Masinde Onyango and Hassan Wasswa's retirement. It's been news that no one really expected.
All right, there you go. Thank you very much, Joel. We're live at the Kampala Serena Hotel. Big thanks to them. And we're proudly powered by Guinness. Dakaba said the hallmark of a good leader is
the ability to live.
Now, I'm telling you, the hallmark of a good presenter is to know when to end the show. Good night.